Europe was the first region to be hit hard after the coronavirus swept from China to the rest of the world. The past 12 months have been unlike any in living memory. And while each European country has been affected and reacted differently, the pandemic has dominated life across the continent. With more than 28 million cases and 600,000 deaths, the situation in most parts of Europe is bad and getting worse. In late December, Russia admitted that the coronavirus death toll there was more than 3 times higher than it had previously reported, making it the country with the third largest number of fatalities after the US and Brazil. Countries across Europe have been accused of not taking the outbreak seriously enough in the early stages. For several weeks in the spring, the main health advice in the UK was to wash your hands. Mask wearing wasn't mandatory in shops or on public transport until the summer. A month after the first confirmed case in the UK, scientific advisors told the government in March they should advise people not to hug or shake hands. But later that day,
I'm shaking hands continuously. I was at a hospital the other night where I think there were actually a few coronavirus patients, and I shook hands with everybody, you'll be pleased to know, and I continue to shake hands.
A month later, Mr Johnson was in hospital with coronavirus. He spent 3 nights in intensive care. Lockdowns, both regional and national, became part of life in Europe. Governments forced to choose between balancing the health of their people with the health of their economy. Italy was the first European country to suffer, with the coronavirus responsible for around 45,000 deaths between March and May. But many argued then, as now, that national restrictions are not the best means to keep the virus contained.
Well, what was surprising was how European countries just did lock down after they saw what was happening in Italy. They became concerned that their hospitals would be overburdened, that they would have an increased level of death, of mortality, and therefore they just locked down everything, as had China. Whereas countries that had started earlier in Asia doing outbreak containment activities, which is the basis of a response to an epidemic, had shown where transmission was occurring by good investigation, and they shut down only those places rather than the entire economy.
Sweden decided to take a different path. It encouraged people to make their own decision about wearing a mask and social distancing. The rationale that herd immunity would prevail, but that was controversial and ultimately appears to have failed. 500,000 cases, almost 10,000 deaths, and a government now passing laws rather than just making recommendations. In early May, world leaders pledged over €7.4 billion to the development of a vaccine at an online international donor conference.
At a time when we are sitting further apart than usual, the world has shown it is standing closer together than ever before.
And the need for vaccines grew daily as both deaths and economic damage also grew. The EU economy shrunk by more than 11% during the first wave of the pandemic. Summer bounce-backs were curtailed by further containment measures as the virus took hold once more. After tough negotiations, the EU agreed the terms of a landmark €1.7 trillion rescue package, but it's no guarantee of a quick return to economic health.
The pandemic could become more severe and last longer. In such case, more stringent and protracted containment measures would be required next year, leading to lower growth and higher unemployment and leaving deeper scars on the corporate sector.
The virus decimated entire industries, with government handouts only able to contain unemployment up to a point. The retail sector was hit twice, with traditional high street shops forced to close for long periods and a widespread recession to contend with. And fluctuating travel bans meant tourism dropped to almost zero during the worst affected months. Experts predict it will take years to recover. December brought a day the world had been waiting for. The Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine was approved for use in the UK. The EU was criticised for being slower to approve the jab. And as the vaccination started, there was further criticism of the slow start to the rollout. Despite being badly affected, the challenge in countries such as France and Spain is encouraging people to have the vaccine. Recent polls found around half the population of each country were sceptical at best about having the vaccination as soon as it became available. The number of winter lockdowns is growing as infection rates are rising, but all are being warned that vaccines will take months to curb the spread of the coronavirus across Europe. John Beaver, SABC News, Bristol.